The deciding battle of the War of 1932 was the first in which the use of infantry was practically discontinued. From History of the United States, 1920 to 1945, Greg Harley. The persistent oily smell of fog gas was everywhere, even in the little pillbox. Outside, all the world was blotted out by the thick gray mists that went rolling slowly across the country with the breeze. The noises that came through it were curiously muted. Fog gas mutes all noises somewhat, but somewhere to the right, artillery was pounding something with HE shell, and there were those little spitting undercurrent explosions that told of tanks in action. To the right, there was a distant rolling of machine gun fire. In between was an utter, solemn silence. Sergeant Coffee, disreputable to look at and disreputable in mien, was sprawled over one of the gunner's seats and talking into a field telephone while mud dripped from him. Corporal Wallace, equally muddy and still more disreputable, was painstakingly manufacturing one complete cigarette from the pinched-out butts of 4 others. Both were rifle infantry. Neither had any right or reason to be occupying a definitely machine-gun section post. The fact that the machine-gun crew were all dead did not seem to make much difference to Sector HQ at the other end of the telephone wire, judging from the questions that were being asked. "I tell you," drawled Sergeant Coffee, "they're dead. Yeah, all dead. Just as dead as when I told you the first time, maybe even deader. Gas, of course. I don't know what kind. Yeah, they got their masks on." He waited, looking speculatively at the cigarette Corporal Willis had in manufacture. It began to look imposing. Corporal Wallace regarded it affectionately. Sergeant Coffee put his hand over the mouthpiece and looked intently at his companion. "Give me a drag of that, Pete," he suggested. "I'll slip you some butts in a minute." Corporal Wallace nodded and proceeded to light the cigarette with infinite artistry. He puffed delicately upon it, inhaled it with the care a man learns when he has just so much tobacco and never expects to get any more, and reluctantly handed it to Sergeant Coffee. Sergeant Coffee emptied his lungs in a sigh of anticipation. He put the cigarette to his lips. It burned brightly as he drew upon it. Its tip became brighter and brighter until it was white-hot, and the paper crackled as the line of fire crept up the tube. "Hey!" said Corporal Wallace in alarm. Sergeant Coffee waved him aside, and his chest expanded to the fullest limit of his blouse. When his lungs could hold no more, he ceased to draw, grandly returned about 1/4 of the cigarette to Corporal Wallace, and blew out a cloud of smoke in small driblets until he had to gasp for breath. "When you ain't got much time," said Sergeant Coffee amiably, "that's a quick smoke." Corporal Wallace regarded the ruins of his cigarette with a woeful air. "Hell," said Corporal Wallace gloomily, but he smoked what was left. "Yeah," said Sergeant Coffee suddenly into the field telephone. "I'm still here, and they're still dead. Listen, Mr. Officer, I got me a black eye and numerous contusions. Also, my gas mask is busted. I called you up to do you a favor. I aim to head for distant parts." "Hell's bells! Ain't there anybody else in the Army?" He stopped, and resentment died out in wide-eyed amazement. Yeah, yeah, I got you, Loot. All right, I'll see what I can do. Yeah, I wish you'd see my insurance gets paid. Yeah." He hung up gloomily and turned to Corporal Wallace. "We got to be heroes," he announced bitterly. "Sit out here in the stinking fog and wait for a tank to come along and wipe us out. We the only listening post in 2 miles of front. That new gas of theirs wiped out all the rest without report."